Hey, welcome back to the channel. We're back in the kitchen and I'm going to show you how to make brick oven style pizza at home. So this is going to be a really easy recipe that anybody can make at home. It uses normal ingredients, it uses your home oven, it will use a pizza stone, but I'll show you another method that you can cook it on there if you don't have a stone. But let's get to making the dough. So this is going to use very simple ingredients. You're going to use 250 grams of all-purpose flour. This is King Arthur brand flour. You're going to use a 1/4 teaspoon of active dry yeast. You're going to use 2 grams of sugar. You're going to use 8 grams of salt, and then 185 grams of lukewarm water. Now this water should be about 100 degrees. It's probably sitting here and cooled down on the counter, but you can see it's coming up. 100 to 105 is what you want. This is, right at about 100. It's showing 99 on there, so that's going to be fine. Before we get started, you're going to want to take your yeast and add it to the water. Kind of stir it up a little bit, because what you want to do is you want to make sure that this yeast is alive. If you pour your yeast in here and it doesn't eventually foam up, you know that your yeast is dead and this whole thing is going to be for nothing. We're going to mix all our dry ingredients together. So that's going to be the 250 grams of the flour, your sugar, and then your salt. As Josh Weissman would say, give it some whiskey business. All right, once you have all your dry ingredients mixed together, you're going to take your water yeast mixture. See, there's a little bit of bubbles. I don't know if you can see it in the video, in the camera there, but there's some bubbles starting to pull up on the surface. That way we know this is actually moving around. So you're just going to add that in to all your dry ingredients. All we're going to do is take a spoon and stir all of this together just until it's all combined. You're not trying to put this in a mixer and beat it. You don't actually even have to knead this. We're just gonna stir it all until it's all combined into a big lump. So this is what you're gonna be left with. Just a dough ball. I think they call it a shaggy dough. It's just all your dry ingredients and your wet mixed together, no kneading. So once you've got your dough ball mixed up, put a lid on the container. If you don't have a container with a lid, you can use some plastic wrap, but then you're gonna let it sit on the counter for 8 to 12 hours. Usually we can make this like in the morning, and then it'll be ready for dinner time. I'm actually making it the night before so I can have it for lunch. So it's super simple. I will say that right now it's really cold outside. The house temperature is kind of low, maybe 68 degrees or so. So I'm actually going to put this in the oven. The oven temperature right now, I checked it, it's about 78 degrees. So if it's during the summertime, you can let it sit on the counter if your house is 78. But you don't want to let it sit in too cool of an environment, or it's going to take a lot longer for it to rise. So I'm going to put it in the oven, and then I'll come back to you guys when it's time to actually start making the pizza. All right, back here in the kitchen, it's the next day. It's been about 11 hours since I stuck the dough in the oven. Let's see what it looks like. All right, here's the dough. You can see it's risen some. It was a lot smaller than that. It's kind of jiggly. So we're gonna pull it out of here, we're gonna stretch it, and then put it back in the bowl for another hour. Okay, so this is the step that can get kind of messy. Sometimes the dough gets stuck to your fingers, so I usually have like a surface that's got a little bit of flour on it. I've just got a cutting board here. You need to put a little bit of flour on your hands or some olive oil. So you want to take a little scraper. You can put a little bit of flour on it if you want. Just go around. You can see I didn't get enough flour on here. Just go around and scrape it out of the bowl. All right, so set that bowl to the side. We're actually going to put this back in it later on to let it sit, but just take your scraper and kind of get this all in a ball. Again, this is kind of sticky, so you can put a little bit of olive oil on your hands if you want. Kind of get the dough, get it kind of olive oily so it's a little easier to work with. Just stretch it. Super simple stretch. If it's too sticky, you can put a little bit of flour on here. So it stays in a ball without getting stuck to the table. And then you've done your stretch. Another thing that I like to do is pull it. So plop it down like that, kind of put your fingers there, and you're just folding it. I'm gonna get the top of this nice and tight. All right, there we go. So we've got our ball like that. Now we're gonna come back to the bowl, put a little bit of oil on the bottom of it, take it, just kind of move it around. If you get any dough left over, do that. And again, just take your plump little dough ball and set it down in there like that. We're gonna put the lid back on it. This time, we're gonna let it sit on the counter for an hour while the oven is heating up. All right, so we got the dough stretched and put it back in the bowl to sit for another hour. Now we're gonna take the oven and heat it up, but we gotta put our stone or plate, whatever we're gonna cook it on top of, in there to get hot as well. There's a couple of ways you can do it. So I'm gonna use a pizza stone right here. You can get these pretty cheap at like Bed Bath & Beyond, a number of other places. But if you don't have one of these, you can use a cast iron skillet. But you're not going to use it on this surface. So you're going to take your cast iron skillet, you're going to flip it over, and you're going to use the back side. So you just put this in the oven like this. You're going to have to make a smaller pizza. So I didn't cut the dough in half. Sometimes we cut the dough in half to make two smaller pieces, but we're going to make one big pizza this time. And if you are gonna use the backside of a skillet, you're probably gonna need to make smaller pizzas. But since we're using the full dough, we're gonna use this this pizza stone today. Okay, so before we put everything in the oven, make sure that you got your rack set up. So I'm gonna have my rack set one position below the maximum, because remember your pizza, you need to have some room between your pizza and that top burner. If you're gonna use a skillet, you need to go on the middle section, so because your skillet's gonna be pretty tall. So we're using a pizza stone, and we're gonna go on this setting right here. So we'll put the stone in here like this. Shut the door, and then we're gonna turn on the oven. You're gonna go as high as it'll go. So most home ovens are gonna be either 500 or 550. This one only goes to 500. You can see I've got it maxed out at 500 there. I'm gonna hit start, and then I'm actually gonna come back in an hour. It'll have given the oven plenty of time to preheat, but it's gonna get that stone nice and hot. Okay, here we are. It's been about an hour, maybe an hour, 20 minutes or so since I put the dough back in the bowl, and here's what it looks like. It's been sitting out. I went ahead and put this in the laundry room. My wife was doing some laundry, so it was a little bit warmer in there. Again, put it in a warmer part of your house while it's doing this second set. So gonna take it out of the dough, or take the dough out of the bowl, put it on our cutting board here, and get it all pressed out into a pizza. Now I've got a pile of semolina flour right here. This right here. You don't have to use semolina. That's just what I've been using. You can use, I started out using just some yellow cornmeal. I would mix about 75% cornmeal with 25% flour. But what this is right here is just 2 spoonfuls of semolina. You're gonna eventually transfer this over to something like a pizza peel so that you can slide it into the oven. I'll show you that right here. I've got the pizza peel right here. I went ahead and I put a spoonful of the semolina on here, and I spread it around all over it. Just put a pile in the middle and just start spreading it till you get all over the edges. You might have to put a little bit more once you're done, just to get it on the end so the pizza will slide off. You don't have to use a pizza peel. If you don't have one of these, you can use one of these flat cookie sheet pans, just like this. That way you can, put the pizza on and slide it out that way. Okay, so first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take our dough and get it onto the board here. You can put a little bit of flour on the tip of your scoop. Start working it around And just plop it in here. Like that. So I've got it on here upside down. I'm just gonna move it around, flip it back over, back right side up. Just get it in that semolina. I want it to be nice and not sticky. We're gonna then start out. Remember, this is the top. That's the bottom. Start pressing in the middle. You do not want to use a rolling pin on this. If you use a rolling pin, you're going to get rid of all the air that's on the edge of the crust. And we want that air to be there. So just start pressing in the middle, and you'll feel the bubbles, you know, popping. Just get it nice and thin. Work your way out. You can grab it, stretch it. Just keep pressing all the way around it until you get a good round piece of dough. So there's some pizza YouTubers that you can watch. My favorite one is Vito Acapelli. I watched a lot of his videos to kind of help me learn how to make pizza at home. I think he's based out of California. He's an Italian guy. He's got some videos where he's gone back to Italy. They'll show you how to do good stretches, but you know, but I'm not that good at it, so I'll pick it up, let the weight of the dough do it. See, we got a nice piece here. See, it's getting really thin, so don't stretch it anymore because you're gonna break through. You can see it's real thin down here on the bottom, so try not to do any more actual stretching. And if you see this little bubble right here, just kind of pinch that. I mentioned you might have to put a little bit more semolina on the edge, or cornmeal, whatever you got. So just take whatever you got left on your cutting board and just put that on there. Take the dough, get it into a nice roundish shape, then take your sauce. I use this Hunt's tomato sauce with basil and garlic and oregano inside of it. You don't have to use this, you can make your own, but this is, it's easy, it's what they've got at the store. You can pick it up at Walmart or Kroger. Put some spoonfuls of it here. All right, just go all the way up to the edge of where the bulge of the crust is. Try not to get it up on top of the crust. All right, so we're gonna cook it first with just the sauce and the dough. It's gonna be cooked at 5 to 6 minutes. Again, it's gonna be at the highest temperature of your oven, whether that's 500 or 550. If you are at the 550 mark, you're probably gonna wanna cut this down. Try it for 4 minutes first. Let's get this put in the oven. Let's slide it in here just with a quick motion. You can kind of get it towards the back and slide it out. Set this thing for 5 minutes. Sometimes I'll have to put an extra minute on there, so start it at 5 minutes, and then if you need an extra one, go to 6. Again, if you're working at 550 degrees, I'd start it at 4 minutes and then work your way up from there. Okay, so while the pizza is in the oven, want to make sure you get all your toppings ready. So I've got some Sargento shaved aged Parmesan here. I've got some shredded mozzarella, some pepperonis, and some olive oil. For the mozzarella, I would really recommend getting a block of mozzarella and shredding it yourself. If you can't do that, try to find the Sargento off the block shredded mozzarella cheese. It doesn't seem to have as much of the coating on it that keeps the piece of cheese from sticking together. If you get just your generic store brand shredded mozzarella, it's usually gonna have like a little powdery coating on it. And to me, it just seems to taste weird when it melts. So I like the block cheese that you shred yourself. Okay, so now what we're gonna do once this first cook is done is we're gonna take and put some of our shredded mozzarella on here. You can put however much cheese you want. I like a lot of cheese. My wife likes a little bit of cheese, so we're gonna go with a bit of compromise and not cover up the whole thing. You know, I usually like it to where there's no sauce at all showing, so we're gonna go with about, you know, maybe 15–10% sauce showing. Put just a little bit of this Parmesan on here, and then some pepperonis. All right, one thing I didn't show earlier is a little bit of sea salt. So take Take some sea salt. And then you can also take a little bit of olive oil. Just kind of put it in your hand. Be really careful not to burn yourself. And then just go over. Okay, with this all done, we're ready to put it back in the oven. We're gonna watch for the cheese to bubble. If the cheese burns, you've got it in there for too long. All right, here you are. That's what the pizza's gonna look like after 4 minutes. You can see that cheese is nice and bubbly. Let's get it on the counter. Okay, so here's the pizza. You can see the cheese is nice and bubbly. It's getting brown in a few spots, so it was just right at the right point. Our crust is nice and dark, nice and it's got that spotting on the crust, on the rim of it. And then look under here at the bottom of it. It's nice and cooked. You can see this is nice and it's like a big cracker. So it's not gonna taste like a cracker, but it's gonna have that crunch. You can see I'm pressing on it and it's moving like the whole thing. It's not real super soft. Okay, so after this is set for a few minutes, you can take your take and cut it into slices. You can use a pizza cutter and go across. I'm actually going to use a pair of scissors just to get this first little cut done and show you guys what this crust looks like. You can hear that crunch of the crust. And there's what it looks like, nice and airy. So we've got our piece of pizza right here. It's probably still kind of hot. Nice and stretchy. It's so good. Nice thin dough here where all the toppings are, and a nice and thick crust. A lot of air in there. You can hear nice and crispy. So there you go. It's a super simple pizza to make at home. There's no kneading, no annoying prep of the dough. Yes, it's gonna take, it's gonna take about 12 hours for the dough to get ready, so you gotta make it the day before. But it's super quick to make. No special mixer involved. It's just a spoon and a glass bowl. You're gonna end up with a very, very yummy pizza. Gonna be just like a brick oven pizza, but you did it at home and you did it in your home oven. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more content. Thanks.